And welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports, joined by Rick Moore and from the website. And also we have, of course, the regular crew here, Phil Stacy, Nick Kukuru, Matt Williams, and Nick Giannino here talking sports. And, I was looking at the Gloucester Times, Nick Kukuru, a couple of days ago, had beautiful butterflies on the front page, colorful monarch butterflies on the front page of your paper. And now we might have a white Halloween, so a snowy Halloween here on the North Shore. So a lot can change in just a couple of days. But I guess Phil, I'm going to let you lead us off. What's changed here in the last week since we got together?
Well, for one thing, I had to put on a pair of pants today for the first time since April. So that's changed.
No, well, let me clarify. Opposed to shorts. Opposed to shorts. Okay.
Yeah. I got my jeans on today.
Okay.
So
I won't tell Tim Curtis, Phil. I won't know that.
You can tell Timmy though that I'm swimming in them. They're way too big, so that's a good sign.
Nice.
What's changed? Well, I've been technically off this week, but obviously following what the two Nicks and Willie have been writing about, and from what my beat has been, so to speak, this fall. It's been a great 1-2 scoring race in the local field hockey annals. It seems like they're switching off almost every time they play between Maggie Sturgis, the sophomore at Masconomet, outstanding sophomore for the unbeaten Chieftains. They're 5-0, and she seems to be averaging 2 goals and an assist per game or so. And then on the flip side, you have Grace Morey over at Bishop Fenwick, whose team has played more games, but she's contributing, a couple of goals and an assist every game too. So they're kind of going back and forth. I believe off the top of my head right now, Grace is at 31 points and Maggie is like at 27, but haven't played 3 less games. So, even in the much shortened season, and the 7-on-7 play, it's opened things up for these offensive players a little bit. We got a nice little scoring race going on between those two.
Might as well have Matt follow up on that with his scoring leaders. He has some area scoring leaders in girls soccer.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are a little bit different. I subscribe to the regular hockey system rather than the college soccer system. So goals and assists, 1 each. So the numbers might not sound as impressive, but I mean, in 4 games, Ariana Bazanson from Danvers already has 12 goals and 15 points. And I believe it's 3 consecutive hat tricks, which I have Coach Hinchin digging through his records to find out if he's ever had a player with 3 consecutive hat tricks. And of course, her fellow striker, Riley DeGilio, had a hat trick in the opener. So far in 4 games, Danvers has had a player get a hat trick in every single game. So that's pretty good, as they say.
I also noticed you also have shutouts noted here, Matt, in your tweet. Those are shutouts, right?
Yeah.
Ellie Carter from Hamilton Wenham with 7 already, huh?
Yeah, the Generals in 8 games have 7 shutouts, and they've only allowed 1 goal on the season. So that's pretty good as it goes. And of course, the games played, the Gens have played the most games of anybody, I think, except for Bishop Fenwick. So, I mean, you got Sydney Anderson there. She's only, quote unquote, got 4 shutouts, but that's in 5 games. So, I guess you could do percentage too, but, Beverly didn't give up a goal for the first, 328 minutes of the season or something along those lines. And, Hamilton Wenham now, I think, I'm trying to remember what game they gave up that first goal in. I think it was like maybe the 3rd or 4th. So they've strung together 4 shutouts in a row since then. So, not a lot of goals going in for the opposition against those teams.
Yeah. We should say too, Willie, that I think we might have mentioned this before in the podcast, but with Masconomet having left the Cape Ann League, it's no longer, like, say, for soccer in this instance, it's not broken up into Kinney and Baker. It's 1 league. So Hamilton Wenham's had 7 shutouts against all the teams in the league, not necessarily the Baker half of the league.
Well, I mean, yeah. So for championships, I believe they are still doing that. They have the standings broken up that way on Cal Scores, but obviously in this shortened season, they are playing all those teams once. Because we're not doing. They're not playing 16, 18 games, right? So you can't play the teams on your side. That number of times. But yeah, HW is the only unbeaten team left in the Cape Ann League, and that includes Newburyport, a team that I think would have been up there in the Division III rankings, and Amesbury too. So, Amesbury's been, I think, Division IV North champs 4 years in a row or something along those lines. So another very good side, and HW tied one and beat the other. So the only unbeaten girls soccer team left over there. It's a wonderful job. They got a lot of seniors in the defensive midfield. And the great thing for Hamilton is the emergence of the juniors up front. So kids like Claire Nistel and Jane McGuire and Ella Schenker, they're all going to be back next year, putting balls away. And, going back to her time at Ipswich, the coach, Nancy Waddell, that team is always stingy defensively. So you can bet the bottom dollar there that, those juniors putting away goals as seniors next year, Hamilton Wenham's going to be a team that could contend for a Division III title, provided there is one next fall.
I'm guessing that Nissel is the younger sister of Aiden the Missile Nissel.
It's a good chance. There was another Nistel, I think. So they may be cousins, but certainly related, no doubt. And, that's another missile coming off the foot, just like the kid running the trick plays in football. The girl sends missiles towards the net, left foot or right foot. I've seen her finish with both.
And I think there was a Nissel at St. John's Prep too, wasn't there?
There was, yeah, and one of them were. They may be cousins. I can't remember which one lines up with whom, but that's okay. We have enough trouble keeping all the Andersons straight between Beverly and Danvers, so we'll move on to the Nissels next.
Well, as a famous man once said, the Andersons are of Beverly lineage, but yes, some of them have matriculated out to the 01923.
I heard that when Beverly plays Danvers, on the road, that the Danvers Andersons are going to say of the Beverly Andersons, the Andersons got tickets to the game. How did they get tickets?
That's
I
a
hope
good
people
one.
will pick up on that one.
I hope so too.
That's good.
Because only the home fans can be at the games, right? That's
Because the commercial.
just in case people aren't
NBA
laughing
playoffs.
at home right now. Yeah.
As a commercial, Bill. It was NBA, what is it, NBA tickets or something?
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Well, Nick, you want to share more? Nick G, and then
I
we'll
can
go
hop
up
over
north.
to boys soccer here. Obviously, not many games this week. Past 3 days have been a wash and a whitewash, so to speak, today, I guess. But it's funny. For my leaders on the North Shore right now, two teams that haven't been playing the past week, Peabody and Masco, those are the two teams that have the top scorers. I think it's let me just double check here, but Kyle Joyce from Peabody, he's got 10 goals, and they've only played 5 games. And then Carmine DPA Trentonio. Oof. Hope I'm saying that right. It's
You got it. Yeah.
But he's got 8 for Masco, and they've only played 4 games. So it's funny. You'd think, some of the teams that have played more games here might have some guys up higher on the leaderboard, but those two powerhouse programs are they got a lot to show for right now, despite not playing. And then we do have some really good defensive teams right now in the league, like Willie alluded to in girls soccer. We got St. John's Prep, who's only allowed 1 or 2 goals on the season, no losses, couple ties, and then Bishop Fenwick. They got a keeper in Liam Foley. He's a senior. I just spoke with him yesterday. I'll be highlighting them in my column next week, so I won't give too much away. But he's got 8 shutouts in 11 games. And since their first game, they've only let up a handful of goals on the season as well. I think they let up 5 in their first game, and they're unbeaten since then. And they've only let up about 4 or 5 goals since. So some good defensive teams, which is interesting because you'd think with the rule changes this year, there might be more goals. But that doesn't seem to be the case for these teams. They're really cracking down on defense. So, but a couple more weeks left of this. It'll be interesting to see where teams end up and to see some of these other teams like Peabody and Masco will be able to get back out there for a few games once this snow melts here.
Hey, can I interject for a second here, Nino?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever seen the movie or are familiar with the movie Falling Down?
No. Can't
Anyone
say
know that movie?
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah, Michael Douglas, right?
Okay.
Really sour, suburban guy, angry at the system or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Nino, with those glasses. And those are his glasses in that movie. If you had a buzz cut and you dressed like you made I don't know, 15 grand a year, you could pull off the Michael Douglas and Falling Down. Just if you need a Halloween costume, that might work.
All right. I'll keep that in mind. I'll do some
Yeah.
research.
I mean, the movie probably came out the year you were born, so I can forgive you for not knowing what it is. But
Yeah. Fair enough. At least I know who Michael Douglas is.
yeah, okay, that's good.
93
light.
came out.
93
93.
came out.
I was born in 92, so yeah,
There you go.
just about.
Pretty good. Right spot on.
Your dad, the bodybuilder, might have taken you in there, does some curls with you in the movie theater. Who knows?
Probably did. Probably did. But yeah, not a ton else going on the boys soccer scene. Like I said, not a lot of games played this week, so we'll pick up there next week. But those four teams, Masco, Peabody, Bishop Fenwick, and St. John's Prep, those are kind of the cream of the crop right now, so to speak.
What's up with those two Beverly injuries, Nick? The two boys who got that was against Gloucester, Kooks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they. I spoke with the coach last game, which they got a nice win, by the way, over Swampskit without those two. But Teo Burbich, one of their better scorers, offensive players, he did something to his groin. I'm not sure if he tore it, but doesn't look like he's going to be coming back. And then Nick Braganca, it was a meniscus injury to his knee, and he's not coming back either. So, you hope he can heal quick and get out there for hoop season should we have it. But at least it's not the ACL. Meniscus, it's more manageable, and he's a young kid. He should bounce back. But yeah, those two guys done for the year, so that really hurts Beverly.
Let's go to Gloucester, Nick Kukuru.
Yeah, actually, I'll start off in Rockport. We had a big on the links. Rockport Golf won the Cal Baker division. That was a big
Nice.
news up there. They beat Manchester, Essex, and Hamilton Wenham. I think the three of them were kind of, going at each other, and they beat them both. So picked up the Cal Baker, undefeated in the Cal Baker. They've been led by the twin brothers, Jack and Will Cahill, have been their two big guns this season. They've been good. And on the other end,
Larry Burnham coaching that team too.
Oh yeah, Larry Burnham, first year too.
Yeah,
He said before the season started, he said, "I've never heard of a longtime coach retiring and then leaving you with a roster like this one that I got." He was happy. He knew he had a loaded team, and they got it done. I think the only losses they had in the Cal were Newburyport and Triton, which have been the two top teams in the Kinney division by far the last couple of years. So they've been they earned that one big time. And yeah, the other one, boys soccer has been really good over in this area so far. Gloucester's off to a 4-1 start. They lost to Masco, which everyone seems to be doing in every sport, but they've handled everybody else. Junior captain Andrew Coelho has had a multi-goal game in all four of their wins. He's kind of emerged as a true star for him. And senior Robert Mugabe has been another force in the middle for him, scoring a ton of goals. They're exciting to watch. They're entertaining, and they can score a lot of goals on you. They have some talented kids with some speed. And then you have Rockport and Manchester Essex, top two teams in the Cal Baker right now. They're playing this week, so this has been it's kind of emerged in the Cal boys soccer. The four best teams have been in the Kinney division. It's been Newburyport, North Reading, Linfield, and I'm forgetting the other one, but they've been the top four. Not Amesbury. Who's the other Kinney division?
Pentucket?
Yeah, Pentucket. Yeah, Pentucket. So they've been kind of the class of the Cal. But then you've had Rockport and Manchester right there behind them, and they're kind of they play Wednesday, so that could be for the Cal Baker Championship over there.
Well, I know in high school sports, one of the big stories this past week was the MIAA coming to the decision that there'll be no postseason for basketball this coming year in the season. And the question is, somebody just alluded to it, will there be basketball this coming season at all, I suppose? Matt, I think it was you. I saw a tweet this week where, if you with the touching of the ball and all that stuff's different than soccer and so on. Since the soccer players can't touch the ball, basketball players, obviously, hopefully you are touching the ball a lot in basketball.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. The alarm bells go off if you pick up the soccer ball, which is round about the same size as a basketball. So, my hope is that we'll look back and say, well, the soccer rules were a little bit too restrictive and, hoop's going to go on. I think, I was making up some modifications earlier, like, no jump ball, coin toss and possession arrow. Every free throw is like a technical. We don't need to crowd around the baseline to rebound it. Whether you make a miss, the other team gets the ball, things like that. I feel like those are the type of things you can do. And we'll look back and laugh and say, well, gee, we should have, picked up the soccer ball and thrown it in instead. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't exactly turn out to be logical, the whole touching the ball with the hands thing. But,
maybe all the hoopers can wear gloves like the soccer goalies.
That's what I was thinking, like the football receivers gloves or something like that,
Yeah, it might be a little weird to get used to, but,
Yeah, I mean, we have bad enough shooting percentages. I don't know. We start asking these kids.
It is going to be tough, yeah.
Jump shooting game now, too.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about, and again, I know this isn't prevalent in this region, but how are you going to be able to offensive rebound or hand check, for that matter, defensively? I mean, those are two big things. I kind of feel like those are two elements of the game that you take those away and it really changes things.
Yeah, I mean, I think once the ball is up in the hoop, you're going to have to be able to rebound it, and it's going to be just like the soccer, what you call the intermittent contact. I don't think it's going to kill anybody.
Yeah.
You would think in soccer, too, that if the virus was on the ball, that after you kicked it once, it would fall off. You know what I'm saying? That, how do you know it stays on the ball? It's, I could see it. Yeah, none of us know.
We have to study the electrons, the magnetism, I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, we do know in the winter that it looks like schools now are being given the choice, if I have this right, to move the indoor track season to the fall 2 season, which would start practicing end of February, and they have meets March and April. That's one suggestion. I would not be surprised if they do the same thing with wrestling. I think I've said it on here before. I don't know how they're going to be able to wrestle, as long as there is still not a vaccine for this virus. Personally, in my opinion, I think that the sports with the best chances of actually playing this winter would be swimming, perhaps gymnastics, perhaps hockey, and maybe hoop. But there's going to have to be some huge restrictions. And, we did see that it was suggested 20-0 vote, board of directors, that there'd be no winter tournaments across the board, not just basketball, but no state tournament for hockey, wrestling, whatever, indoor meets, that kind of thing. They do still want to, Willie, I know you wrote about this, so you can touch upon it a little more, but they suggested that they still start the winter season of practices can begin on that Monday after Thanksgiving, the 30th of November, if things haven't changed as far as guidelines from the state or CDC and things like that. I do feel like if there is going to be a winter season, it'll be pushed back a little bit. One of the things when I was talking with a coach today, he made a point that I was thinking of. I'm not sure they want to start, let's say, the 15th of December with games or whatever, and then stop around the holidays and then start back up again in the new year. I think you might just see January 1st or January 2nd or the 4th or whatever. Perhaps if we are going to have games, maybe they start then and we just do a 6 or 7 week sprint until that February 21st date that would end the winter season. Anyone?
Yeah, I don't know. They never stop, right? I don't know why they would stop. There's always games over the holidays. So unless they were to change that, I guess the only thing with that is, the rinks. I mean, you got to rent the ice time in advance. So they got to figure this out pretty fast, I think, because these rinks are going to be booking other people. And, are you going to be able to get a refund? If a school books ice for December and then they say, oh, no, we're not going to play till January. Well, if I'm, Joe's Rink Emporium LLC, am I out all that money? Am I keeping your money? Am I bankrupting the school for the ice they're not using? I mean, I don't know. That's a whole thing that I don't know is really being talked about when it comes
I think it's definitely being talked about in the schools. I know a lot of coaches, and I haven't spoken to any of the girls' coaches, but some of the guys' coaches that don't have, let's say, a Talbot rink in Gloucester where it's in your backyard, or Kasavuski and Saugus kind of thing, they are wondering where they're going to have ice, especially with the fact that Endicott right now is not open to anyone who is not on one of the Endicott college teams. So that means no Beverly girls, no Beverly boys, no Danvers boys. So those teams are left trying to find ice. But if Endicott opens back up in December, what happens then? It's a valid point.
Hey, Phil,
Yes, I don't know. I mean,
why were the rinks closed in the first place?
Endicott or in general?
No, in general. Remember they're shut down for 2 weeks or something like that in the state or something like that?
Yeah, I think they saw a spike in cases, Rick, that one, there was an official at a youth hockey game that tested positive. So all the games he had done, all those hundreds of players had to quarantine. They had other instances in rinks around the state where apparently people weren't following mask mandates, whether they were coaches coming off the ice or a parent in the stands that was there or whatever. There was just too much of it going on. So they just decided to shut everything down for 2 weeks, give everybody a pause, so to speak, and try to get a handle on this before we really get into the grips of this bad weather and flu season and things like that. Better now than, in January, let's say, when everybody's full bore into this respective season.
True.
So just to follow up on from something said a moment ago is that, so as far as like Northeastern Conference basketball, they don't really have their schedule together yet, then is what you're saying. Does that sound right? Okay. That makes
I think they're
sense.
trying to make contingency plans. Like, like Willie said, this needs to happen quick. I think when word comes down, it will be quick. So you need to act fast. And I believe a lot of coaches / athletic directors in these sports are trying to cobble together possible schedules and dates, especially where it involves, say, ice rinks where they're off school. And it's not just a school saying, well, we can make our gym available Tuesdays and Wednesdays kind of thing for these basketball games. So there are a lot of contingency plans trying to get made to accommodate everybody that hopes to play this winter.
Yeah, I think they're operating under the assumption that it's going to be very similar to the fall in the sense that, I don't get the sense the NEC is going to allow any out-of-conference competition, which is, hey, that's a thing that they're going to do. So, I mean, maybe they'll play everybody once. Maybe they'll try to play everybody twice instead. I mean, certainly some of the sports, they don't have enough people. I mean, girls hockey, if they played everybody once, that's like 5 games. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do a best of 3 set against everybody. Boys hockey, I'd have to count. They don't have too many more teams. Masco coming in certainly helps, but I mean, that's still 7, 8 games for everybody. So maybe they'll try to play everybody twice. Basketball gets a little bit more interesting. And, it'll go back to the school committees probably because we'll have to see if the school committees have appetites for indoor stuff. There's going to need to be a lot more cleaning, right? Because, boys and girls soccer can switch on the turf and you don't have to clean the place. But, do you have to clean the place between basketball practices because it's indoors? I mean, that's a whole thing that, they'll probably have to decide and see if they have the budget for at some of the different schools.
And we haven't even touched on the fact that now we're getting a lot more cities and towns in the red than we've had before, which, has to be alarming to people.
Yeah, nobody seems to mind that. It's interesting. Originally it was presented as if you're in the red, you have to stop. And now everybody in the red is just like, we're fine. We're going to keep playing, which, I mean, hey, good for me. But certainly the red boogeyman thing that was espoused in August hasn't turned out to be the case.
Yeah, I know with that red designation, at least when I had listened to the Gloucester school committee meeting, their public health director said not all red designations are created equal. If they can trace things back to just one event or two, it's not really seen as an outbreak. So like, for example, in Gloucester, they traced all their cases back. They knew where everything came from, so they didn't have to cancel sports. And now they're still in the red, but the cases have been cut into about a third in a week. So, if it was more spread out, I think they'd shut things down. But if they can kind of trace it back to a couple specific events, they're comfortable to continue playing.
But even Commissioner Riley from the Department of Ed changed the ruling on red districts and in-person school. So that's now allowed as well. Some kind of hybrid. Just because you're in your red doesn't mean you can't go into the building and go to school. That's changed. And speaking of incidents, in the last week or so, Marblehead had that incident where students were at a gathering, let's call it, and so they are now closed down, no athletics and no in-person schooling we're now in the middle of the 2-week period. So these things can pop up as well, which means that if you were playing Marblehead in the sports next week or two, they're not playing because of the shutdown there.
Yeah, and they're scrambling to get some of those made up. I wondered how Marblehead would handle that, and I don't think it's so much to give those kids their games back, and I speak not knowing if any athletes were involved at all. I mean,
right, yeah.
I guess it would be naive to think that there wouldn't be, but I have no insight into that. But I think it's just as much to give the student athletes on other teams, they shouldn't be penalized and not have those games. So I have seen Greg Saglaski and Mark Tarmy over in Marblehead work with some of the other schools to try to get some of those games made up in that week before Thanksgiving. So we'll have some chilly soccer and field hockey games coming up, but that's okay. Hopefully all the games go off as planned and we avoid some bad weather and any more outbreaks and things like that. Peabody boys soccer has had a pause as well. They're believed to have had a player with that was a positive confirmation. Nino, did we ever get an official word on that? I mean, we would believe that's
no. I spoke with Bob Bua, the athletic director. I spoke with Stan McKean, the head coach there, and both of them said they weren't allowed to comment on it. So, it's pretty clear that it was a COVID-related issue, and someone probably tested positive, and they had to hit pause. But maybe it's just protecting him because he's a student under 18, whatever.
That's totally fine. But they've had to shut down there.
Right.
For a couple of weeks, but they're scheduled to be back, I believe, the end of next week, I want to say.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I said, nobody knows exactly what happened, but it's pretty easy to pinpoint that. I mean,
I can say this, and I'm sure it's the same for Kooks and Gloucester, Bill and Rick. I mean, if ever the phrase day by day has been more apt, it's now. I mean, we're literally changing our schedule of local events every day, between times being changed and games being moved and pushed back and held and rescheduled and things like that. So it's these are the kind of things you have to do in unprecedented times. And I don't complain because that means that these games are going to be played eventually, which is good, I think. So you just have to roll with the punches, and everyone's doing what they can to make things work. And the mistakes that have been made, hopefully we learn from those and make it better moving forward so we can continue this high school athletics season. Because, let's face it, this has been a great thing for the student athletes to be able to get out and play these games. I haven't heard one complaint about there's no championships, there's no state tournament, there's no this, that. I mean, kids are just happy to be out playing. Coaches are happy to be out coaching. We're happy to be out covering these games and writing about them. So it's win-win-win all around. Takes a lot of work, but together I think we're all kind of helping to make it happen.
I know our time is short, but it reminds me of a comment that legendary Dodger announcer Vin Scully made once years ago. I'll put it into some context here. He's maybe referring to Oral Hershiser, Dodger pitcher, saying that he's been listed as put on the day-to-day list. And then he goes, but then again, aren't we all? It's all day-to-day for us here, I think, right? So, well, gentlemen, we're just about out of time. I think we have another minute if anybody wants to chime in with anything else here in this week's podcast, which this weekend would have been the first weekend of high school football playoffs. But again, knowing that we have a minute or two left, any other thoughts from you guys?
I just want to say, you guys, Gloucester Times, Salem News, given all the things that you're going through, that the kids are going through, and everything else, you guys do a fabulous job. It's as though nothing is wrong. So I appreciate that as a fan and as a reader. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
I would just say, rest in peace, Travis Roy. Terrible thing to have seen him pass away, age 45. People who don't know his story, Boston University freshman hockey player. 11 seconds into his first shift, he was hit the boards, paralyzed. And a lot like Pete Frates, who made a terrible situation a good thing for so many others and brought attention to it. Travis fit into that same role. It's unfortunate that he passed away, but he really affected millions of people with his positivity and going all around New England and beyond, giving speeches, and a great ambassador for hockey, and a real gentleman. I would see him sometimes at Bruins games, or I know he's spoken all over. He spoke with my son's class last year, one of my boys anyway. So, Godspeed to Travis.
And on that note, we'll stop, but have a nice weekend, everybody. Happy Halloween, and be safe.